everybody. All right, greetings. We're live on the broadcast. Greetings to the body people. It's a man called Chris Dorsey. This is People of God. It's 7/17/20, and I don't know. Try this caller. See what we got going. For the caller here. Um, Caller, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hey Matt, how's it going? We're gonna try to yeah. Can you give me like a testing 1 2? Just say something. Okay, I've gotta switch off for a second now. All right, yeah, that should be better. All right, yep. Greetings. We got Matt from New York on the line. This is a man called Chris Dorsey. This is the People of God. You're listening to the sermon. Yeah, I'm glad we do have a caller because I was thinking before the show started. I mean, there's any number of different things that we can talk about uh, with what's going on this week, but yeah, we'll start with the caller. Matt, what's on your mind tonight? Anything that is something that you are eager to speak about this week or just in general in the news?
Yeah, I mean, there was something that you said, I think, like last week or 2 weeks ago, where you said, like, looking back 10 years ago compared to now, things are pretty good, and how, you know, things are just getting worse, like, by the hour now.
Oh
That was
yeah.
something that really stuck out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, this is.
And there was one particular, article that just, like, really encapsulated everything. It was, like, the Dallas Fed president saying that the only way to help the economy is if we have mandatory masks for everybody.
Yeah, it is. That is a key point. I really think that that's a good point to stick to. We'll get to the masks here it, after just reiterating the overall thought that things were really bad and getting worse in 2015, 2010, 2004. They were really bad. 2000, they were really bad. Obviously, they did 9/11. But what's going on now? It's getting worse, as Matt said, by the day, by the hour. So I look back even a couple years ago, even looking back at 2018 and say, compared to now, things weren't that bad. I mean, everything has changed. Everything has changed, and they're really doing this as like a uh, a shock, you know, like a shock to the collective system to let us know that they're in a no holds barred uh, scenario with us. They don't care. They're going to tell us, hey, yeah, mandatory masks. You can't walk in someplace without a mask on, and that's it. And I do see your question, Bill Wright. Let's see. Okay, and I'm glad you're saying I do not assert that you. I don't know. We'll get back to the subject at hand. Bill Wright, serious question for Chris, Clifford, David, and the people of God. Do you believe my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to be Isas Manu, aka the Egyptian false prophet, that Jesus was king of Edessa and a failed war? Okay. Okay, let's break this down because it's all different things. Um, Jesus, King of Edessa. I mean, it seems that there was a Jesus, King of Edessa. It seems like that there's a lot of similar qualities of or similar attributes of the King of Edessa to the biblical Jesus. So I, I don't know about Isus Manu. I know that Jesus Christ, Jesus, the King of Kings in the Bible, uh, is of Egyptian lineage. That is seems to be certain. I don't like this question. Necessarily that I'm opposed to it. I just don't like the way it's worded. Do you believe my Lord and Savior to be Isis Manu? I don't really know what Isis Manu is. Uh, the Egyptian quotes false prophet. I know Jesus was an Egyptian, and that's because that's what the Bible says. That's what the Bible describes. Jesus going into Egypt. Let's just take this as it comes. Egypt. All right, Jesus, Egypt. Okay. So and we've already gone through the Jesus, connections to the Egyptian gods, taking on the attributes of Egyptian gods because he is of the Egyptian royal line. I don't know how many times we have to repeat this over and over and over again. And Bill, I don't know what to say except for there's probably hours and hours and hours of us talking about specifically what we're saying. I do repost Ralph Ellis stuff. I do believe a lot of what Ralph Ellis is saying. Let's just go here to Wikipedia and where it talks about Matthew 2:13 through 2:23. So let's just go to that. Um, Here we go. This is from King James. And when they departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. I mean, that's they were worried about the King of Kings, the King of the tribe of Judah, the Lion of Judah. All right. And so, yeah, they went to Egypt. They fit right in because they are of the Egyptian royal bloodline. Yes. So there you go. Let's see. Uh, the Wandering of the Holy Family. Its content is closely linked with the second half of Matthew 1. Egypt was a logical place to seek refuge. It was outside the dominion of Herod, and throughout the Old Testament, it was a standard place of exile for those unsafe in Israel. Okay, but it's the same thing. Israel, Egypt. I'm not saying Israel and Egypt are the same thing. I'm saying that the individuals in ancient Egypt and the individuals in uh, in of the people of God, the tribes of Israel, the people of God were of the same bloodline as those of Israel, that the characters of the Bible are for the most part, and I've been saying this for years, so I don't know. Maybe we can get a response from Bill. Uh, was not an Israelite just because The Talmud says his mother. Well, the Talmud's full of a lot of garbage. That's another thing to say. That's more of like hit pieces and opinion about what's going on. Says his mother, Queen Helena, was initiated into Nazarene Judaism. Judaism is matrilineal. Let's see. This does not make you a Israelite. And he's again, I don't know. I don't know about this, you know, and I'm a little suspicious now because we're getting this you know, this, Chris. I don't appreciate that kind of nonsense. I'm a little suspicious with everything that's going on with with this show. This does not make you a blood Jew Israelite. Okay, so again, you can't use the English derivation of representing the tribe of Judah with the word Jew and Israelite. I guess Judeans are Israelites. Isis Manu fails to fulfill the prophecy and demonstrates nothing in common with the. So what? I mean, have I? Has anybody ever heard me use the name Isis Manu? I mean, I've talked about this
I have
subject.
not.
I've talked about this subject for hours and hours, going back many years. Even going and saying like, "Oh yeah, Jesus is an Egyptian king." That's true. He's of the pharaonic line. That's true. That's what I believe. So I go on and on and on about this. And when I don't like to have it be that there's any confusion that they're using certain different words. What I'm saying is those of the Levant region during the biblical times, they have the same bloodline as modern day Europeans, especially the modern day, or not modern day, but the historical uh, monarchical bloodline of the European kings and queens, princes and princesses, dukes and duchesses, earls, etc. The bloodline that we all, as the founding stock of Americans, share. So, okay. Modern Jews, aka the synagogue of Satan, we know are descendant of Edomites who took yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but I believe it could be made a lot simpler than just saying all of this, because we know what the differences are. We know where certain individuals were at the time of the Bible, at the time of the Egyptian pharaohs, and we know where the others aren't. For example, R1BY DNA haplogroup on all of the mummies of the pharaohs and the Egyptian royal line. So yeah, all right. Well, Cliff's on the line now too. Okay, so good. Hey, thanks for the heads up, Cliff. All right. Hey, Cliff, we got you on. So thanks. I'm with you. I don't like to overcomplicate things because like sometimes there's stuff maybe I've heard of, I don't know too much about, or maybe I've never even heard of the stuff. But we've been saying this stuff for years and it's irrefutable. So when we say stuff that's irrefutable, a lot of times folks want, either for um rational and good reasons, or to catch us up, they start asking us questions. I don't even know how to answer that. Jesus is what we believe Jesus is. We Or who he was as a historical figure. um we make that clear. And I do like Ralph Ellis's work. um the That being said, I don't even know enough to know if all that stuff is 100% true. But what we've said is extensive and clear. Cliff, go ahead. You got the floor if you're ready to speak on this issue.
I mean, I really don't have much to say. Like, I mean, I said in the comments, it just sounds like there's like some confusion spreading going on. And so, I mean, because the thing is, most people who like to question other people on like the identity of my Lord and Savior, typically they have no idea what Christianity is about. They don't know the fundamentals that we discussed multiple times on this channel. Like, I once did not know the fundamentals. Growing up in church, I didn't know the Bible was of Irish origin, but I've caught up to speed. And so when people come with this same old thing about like, oh, it's Egyptian, oh, therefore it's evil, therefore it's pagan, it's either you haven't caught up to speed or you have caught up to speed and you're just out here trying to confuse everyone else. And that's
Well,
pretty much what I
I,
think it is.
I don't know. I mean,
And
I
sorry
like
that that
Bill.
was harsh, but I mean, I just wish to proceed.
Yeah, let's proceed. I like Bill, and he says these were the words used by Ralph Ellis, not yours. I just wanted your response. I am a follower of yours, for yours and Christ. Thank you for your response. Hey, no worries. You're very welcome. I appreciate it, and I mean, hey, I would love for you to question Ralph Ellis about that. That would be great because again, I I I don't I don't I'm not an expert on everything that Ralph Ellis talks about. He and our work, I guess, comes together. But this is just obvious for everyone, in my opinion, that the biblical, all of the Israelites, um, are at least, um, in a bloodline way associated with the pharaonic line of ancient Egypt. And what I've said for, I mean, it's been at least 10 years since I've been saying this over and over again, that that the Hyksos pharaohs are very closely associated, are exactly the tribes of Israel, that they are one and the same, and that there is a number of ethnic groups that today they act as if in the past they were disparate, but they were one and the same. There was intermarrying between the ancient Romans and the ancient Egyptians, and they were all in the same region. The Exodus stories are easy to find, that many historians going back to, I mean, not going back to the time that this was going on, documented. Um, I I mean, the Hyksos were I mean, again, Bill Wright says yes, the Hyksos were not bloodline Egyptians. The Hyksos were were the Egyptian pharaohs. Hyksos, Egyptian
Now it
Egyptian.
seems like we're getting into semantics.
We are getting into semantics where you cannot win. You can't win. Um,
Because a comment like that, let me say this, makes me think someone's asking, oh, who were the original individuals to first inhabit the land we now call Egypt? And that, that's a bit arbitrary. Why concern yourself with that bloodline as opposed to the bloodline of the rulers of Egypt's most um, well-known historical times, the building of the structure and civilization, the golden age. So yeah, and I'm like, what's the point of this? Like, why are we splitting semantics
Right.
important things to discuss, like the the, the weird mind war psyop currently going on. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
Yeah.
really getting
Let's
tired of
let's
seeing
just
people children
establish.
outside with masks on.
Okay. Okay. So now Bill Wright is saying. I mean, because right, all right. We'll get to the masks here in just a second, but as we established, the Hyksos were people. They say Levantine. Yes, of course, probable Levantine. Now, we know that that's from west to east. We know that all civilization stems from the island of Ireland. And we can't even really say that because when we get into the real specifics, when we go back that far, Ireland and Britain were one island back then, and and so we can't really say it's Ireland when it was just one island at that point. The Hyksos were established the 15th dynasty of Egypt in the Nile Delta. Blah blah blah. Egyptians. So when we can get specific, right, Clifford, that's really a good point that you make. When we get specific on who was the pharaonic line, who was the line of the Nazarenes, who was the line of the Judeans, who were the line of the 12 tribes, we say, oh, R1B Y DNA haplogroup. That's what pops up when we you know suss out all the who's who. So that's what we know. That's what we know. All right, let's get back to the fact that things are getting worse and crazier and more slave slave like for the masses by the hour and by the day. So let's get into that one. And if we have time, we'll definitely get back into this. If we get other callers about the Bible, the line of Jesus, the line of David, the line of Solomon, the line of Abraham, the line of Isaac, and ancient Egypt, we'll get into that. I mean, again, that's something we have talked about for hours and hours and hours on these broadcasts over the years. Cliff, I mean, hundreds of times I would say we've talked about that.
Yeah.
It's something we used to talk about every show if we don't still talk about it every show. Um and I guess at least this time we have. Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. Um Getting ridiculous. Listen to me. So, yeah, I'm watching sports now on TV. There's a soccer game on. The doofy coach of the DC United soccer team is wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt. I mean, this stuff is getting so stupid. It's just getting to the point where one can't even think to. All right, yeah. Bill Wright says, yeah, he hasn't missed a broadcast. Yeah, I mean, that's all I know. Sometimes I don't know enough about a subject, or maybe I know all there really is to need to know, and that the rest that other folks are talking about are distractions. Not maybe not intentional distractions, but too much information. All we need to know is that yes, the the line of the biblical um, kings and queens comes from originally Ireland. That movement of civilization didn't come from east to west, it went from west to east. That there is really no evidence out there, no good evidence uh, to state that it went from east to west, except for what National Geographic and these Khazarian disinformation um, public
The official
figures.
lie. That is the evidence. The official lie.
The official lies. Thank you. Yeah, the official lies is the only evidence that there is to promote the theory of east to west movement of civilization. It's clearly west to east, and that there are a lot of folks that are a lot more knowledgeable than I am about this, that have written volumes and volumes and volumes about this, and that I can just recognize, oh yeah, that's what's true. It's just a matter of discernment for me. Um, when they say, okay, well, let's see what the DNA for these Egyptian mummies are, and it's R1B, and they say, oh, well, it's this way because of, see this biblical Exodus story. Yeah, that's a historical fact, and here's the evidence, the archaeological evidence of the Exodus out of Egypt, and here's why it happened in the history. Here's evidence of where the Israelites went. Israelites interchangeable with the ancient Egyptian Hyksos pharaohs. Again, we've been over this over and over again. And where did they go? Oh, they went back to their place of origin. Oh, and it was Europe, and specifically the Irish Isles. Okay, good enough. Do I know more than that? Maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, R1B haplogroup. Yeah, I see Cliff's posting some stuff too. Um, yeah, what specifically do you wish to talk about, Cliff, in regard to everything getting worse and more stupid by the day, and the people becoming, not the people becoming fewer in number, and the persons and slaves just, they don't question anything. Nobody's standing up. CVS Pharmacy is now mandating masks. Um, Target is now mandating masks. I have not worn a mask. I have not put a mask on. I say every week, for those who listen every week, I'm not opposed to wearing a mask if I'm forced to in an emergency, because I'm not going to get shot. I'm not going to go to jail over not wearing a mask, but I can tell you that I have been to stores and laundromats. That's really the only places I go. And I have not once worn a mask. And nobody has said anything to me. And in most cases, most of the other people in these stores, all of the people in the stores, and most of all individuals, including persons, have not been wearing masks. That if there is someone wearing a mask where I am, that's usually like a 7-Eleven or a convenience store or a laundromat, nobody's wearing a mask. Possibly, possibly the person who's working there, or the persons who are working there. But the last time I went into a 7-Eleven, uh, the person stocking the refrigerator not wearing a mask. We were standing right next to one another. I'm I'm not ill. How about this? Yeah, JD Day. Well, I know it's been like that in Maryland for a long time, and I presume Baltimore is going to be even worse than a place like Hagerstown, or some place that is, I don't know, far away from being run by. I mean, all the places are run by these the synagogue of Satan, inner city, uh, what would you even call it? Despotic regimes. Um,
Yeah, I would just call
go ahead, Cliff.
I would call them mobsters.
Yeah, mobsters, mind control mobsters. But yeah, I've been hearing about Maryland for, I mean, pretty much since May. Actually before May. Pretty much since this thing came out. And let's get into the most absurd aspect, and I'm sure everyone has heard this one, but I've never heard anybody really address it. And I was watching CNN today, and they were addressing this, and it was the fact that folks who have had other coronaviruses, they are creating T cells so that they don't even know they have COVID-19. So, what I'm saying is, everyone has these viruses, and if they're non symptomatic, then what's the point? How dangerous is something if one has to take a test to figure out whether they have it or not? And it's not just like, oh, well, you'll take a test and you'll be able to tell it's not this. I mean, that would be a reason to take a test if you're not having symptoms. It's not like they're stating, hey, you might test positive before you see the symptoms. They're saying you may never have symptoms of anything and you may test positive for it. How dangerous is something if that's the case? How dangerous is something if 90
I
if
don't dangerous. Go ahead.
well, just saying, if if 99.8% of individuals survive, I'm sure it's probably even higher than that as far as the survival rate. But if you're not sick at all and you need a test where folks are testing positive, then testing negative, then testing positive, then testing negative, or there's different kinds of tests and we don't really have any idea, and they're just making up arbitrary numbers to begin with, and they're telling us that this many folks have it, and then we find out that those numbers are incorrect, even by the standards that those who are putting out the numbers, um, even they can't stand behind the accuracy of the testing. How crazy is that? If you're not sick, why do you need to take a test? If hardly anyone is sick, why does anyone need to take a test? Now, we're hearing that there's another spike, that there's spikes, and they're reinforcing lockdowns. And we're watching the news, and basically it's the same thing. It is a talking head berating individuals who are doing things like not wearing a mask, living it how they wish to live, going about their business, using their own free will. It's about berating those individuals. Then we'll see a commercial where the government is paying, not just the government and private corporations are paying to shame individuals into muzzling themselves. And then after the commercial break, we have usually a Ashkenazi or some other minority, and when I say minority, I mean non-founding stock of U.S. of America, um, doctor telling us how stupid and selfish it is for anyone not to wear a mask, not to social distance, not to enjoy their lives as they see fit and as they wish, and that's it. And we're expected to believe this, even though I don't know anyone who's sick with COVID-19, and I don't know anyone who knows anyone who's sick with COVID-19. So I'm not afraid to go outside, even though there were, what was it, like 15 shootings in 2 days in Richmond, Virginia. I mean, I've seen worse. I used to live in a neighborhood where there was like 4 murders in 1 week, and I used to walk around even before I walked around with a gun everywhere I went. 2 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night. I never stopped, but I would never say, "Hey guys, these murders aren't real," because I know murder victims. I know folks who have died of murder. I know not to go and 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 become a heroin addict. And I mean, not that's something. I mean, there's addiction and that's a serious issue. What I'm saying is, I know that people die of heroin overdoses because I've known a number of people who have died of heroin overdoses. I know that people die in car accidents because I have known individuals who die of car accidents. I know people who die of heart attacks and other disease because I've known people who have died of heart attacks. And it's not just what I know, because what I know is just my limited experience. I know thousands of people personally, thousands. I've had retail stores. I had a retail store on Main Street in Richmond, Virginia. Main Street. Thousands and thousands of people walked in, talked to them. I've been involved in politics. I've had conversations face to face, handshake. I've shaken the hands of tens of thousands of people in my, I don't know, getting to be a long time here on planet Earth. So I know these things from my firsthand experience. But when somebody is berating the public, is intimidating the public, is pressuring the public over something that I see no evidence of, and I'm not stating that there's no such thing as the coronavirus, because there's dozens of kinds of coronaviruses. We all know that. We say that every broadcast. But I don't know anyone who knows anyone who has had COVID-19. Even with all these fake, phony, made up numbers. So I know that there's danger in the world. There is. There's danger in the world. Is it something that has ever stopped anyone from going out and doing things? From going into big crowds? No, it really doesn't. I, for example, let's give an example. Okay, so I used to um, sell merchandise, retail merchandise, at music festivals. And when there is a big music festival, maybe a really big one, 25 to uh 200,000 people. Invariably, there are deaths at these events. That's what's reported. I have known in at least one individual who has died at one of these music events. And I would say it is a fraction. It's, 99.99% of individuals, maybe probably more like 99.999 or 99.9999% of individuals going to these events are going to survive. They don't shut these things down, even though a lot of the times the individuals dying are involved in illicit activity. They don't tell anybody not to go. Now they just shut them all down. Same with sporting events. I would like to see, it's probably a low percentage, but I bet that there's individuals during an NFL season or a Premier League season where there are individuals who say have heart attacks at sporting events and pass away. I know that these things happen. What I don't know is that anybody is dying of something called COVID-19. Cliff, Matt, am I making sense here? Am I making? They seem to be cogent points to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, all pretty straightforward. I mean, so you talk about the survival rates and all that. It's just, well, it just becomes the thing where when you ask how dangerous this is, from everything we're told, it's not as dangerous to be classified as a pandemic. It's not that dangerous by any means.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I mean that's the key point. Yeah, JD Davis says black on black murders here daily from a Zionist ran a drug war. BLM. LOL. Joe Erickson, you were a festy vendor. Would you go to Rocket? Yeah, I mean, it was mostly those hippie jam band festivals, but yeah, any rock festival. Um, and those things suck. They're not worth the money. They're not worth the time. Um, and it's a waste of time. And certainly, those are magnets for DEA run drug distribution, mind control operations. We know that all the rock bands are military intelligence assets, etc. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Chris, can I just
yeah,
follow up?
go ahead, Matt. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been to a number of shows and concerts out here in Long Island and New York City, and it's the same thing: drugs, alcohol. I'm almost surprised that people don't get injured more at these events just because of the atmosphere of it and the incredibly loud music and the stuff that they play now is this rave music, this EDM music where there's flashing lights and seizure-inducing frequencies of these
Right.
light beams. So that's one thing.
Well,
And
yeah, we
I
can.
think the mask thing is really just to make people more compliant and just like afraid and suspicious of everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And those are great points. It's really just for, I don't know, inducing slavery. And you brought up a good point with that EDM because a lot of folks, and I remember this going back to when I was a kid, and they were telling us stuff like play Stairway to Heaven backwards. It says blah blah blah, devil this, devil that. Not not totally dismissing that, but what it is that is the most mind control inducing, the most mind controlling uh, thing about modern music and music going back to the dawn of time is the tones and the beats rather than the overt lyrics, because this is about subconscious mind control, not conscious mind control. And if one can hear the lyrics, it's in the realm of the conscious. But that's why the EDM stuff is so trance inducing. I mean, they even is it? I mean, I'm showing my age. It's called trance. It's called trance music, and we've been through this over and over again, going back to the before everyone. I presume uh, I'm the oldest individual on this call. Before I was born, they were doing this with the light shows, the electric Kool-Aid acid test or the acid test, the be-ins, where they were combining music, lights with LSD and other drugs to get individuals into a trance-like state. I think that I don't think I know that that the uh, that the frequencies, the light frequencies, etc., put out on a computer screen, a television screen, especially with this new kind of technology that even back in the 50s and 60s that they had patents to induce um, induce a hypnotic state through the um, energy waves, the visual energy waves from a television. So we know all that stuff is out there and it's been out there for generations. And that the tones of the music is what is getting into manipulate the individual's subconscious when it comes to music, and that EDM stuff is just like, wow, this is really yeah, of course, Grateful Dead concerts. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Grateful Dead concerts, we all know that they were military intelligence. Yeah, Fish concerts as well. I mean, okay. So if we get into,
I have some family members that love that band.
I've been to Grateful Dead concerts. They certainly are old school, MK Ultra, um, mind control operations. No doubt about that. And even if you don't get into the mind control aspect, think about this. That's a place to distribute drugs, to distribute illicit substances. And so
Yeah, exactly,
and
Chris.
so it's the ultimate honeypot because they have an event, everyone comes to the comes to the event. These individuals who are military intelligence assets, the members of the Grateful Dead, Bob Weir, Jerry Garcia, I mean, obviously, he's not around anymore. Phil Lesh, Kreutzmann, uh, um, Mickey Hart, and then various other different hangers on, Bruce Hornsby. What's the new guy? What's the Jew guy who is the guitar player? Who's like the famous guy that's like the head guy with them now? The one that what's that guy's name? Anyone? Anyone out there?
Mickey Hart?
No, no,
I
no,
have
no,
no
no,
idea.
no. He was never a member, but he's like now tours with the Dead, and he used to be like a solo artist. He used to date Jessica Simpson or something like that. He's a Jew. Um, God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. He's really famous. He's friends with
I'm
like
trying to look it up now, Chris.
Dave Chappelle.
John Mayer?
John Mayer, thank you, thank you. Yeah, Joe Erickson, thanks. Yeah, so yeah, thanks Matt, thanks Joe. Yeah, yeah. So they're all military intelligence agents. They've all sold their soul, and don't think it's like they sold their soul to the devil like consciously. That's like not even a thing to them. They're they don't need anything formalized like that. Although they do formalize it. They do literally make blood oaths. They do literally uh, sign these satanic contracts. They do that, but it's not even a thing. Like, do you think like for whatever you guys do,
People know what they're getting involved in.
they know what they're getting involved in. It doesn't even need to be discussed. It's like that. It's like it's like uh it's like if somebody's a public school teacher, say go back last year, the year before that, they don't have to all get in a little circle and go like, "Hey, today guys, we've got this curriculum and we're going to present the curriculum to the students." They don't need to do that. It's not like they all get together and have to go like, "Hey, today kids, we're going to run this honeypot concert and we're getting paid to mind control these individuals." Man, they've been doing it for decades. They don't need to think about that. Standard
Yeah, they
operating
don't have to
procedure.
plan it out. It's like if you have a job somewhere, you know what you're going to be doing most days, and you go in. You have a routine that you do.
Right. Somebody's a
You can't
plumber.
just sit down with your boss every day and have an hour-long meeting.
Right. If somebody's a plumber and they show up and they go like, yeah, we got a clog in the sink." Like, "What? A clog in the sink?" Wow, I really have to think about what I'm doing. I have to No, if somebody's a car mechanic, you're going to be fixing cars. That's the same thing as these military intelligence agents. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to go home and say to their like girlfriend or wife or mom or dad or brother or sister or friend. They don't have to say, "Guess what? I got to work today and yeah, I'm a plumber. I got to work today and I had to clear out a clogged pipe." They don't talk about it. They just do it. It's what they do. You don't talk about it. You don't need to. It's just what they do. Period. So,
Chris, one more thing about the concert.
yes.
They can also be, and I'm sure they are in many cases, vehicles for human trafficking.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
there's
Yes.
many concerts where there's young people under the influence, and stuff can happen. A young person is messed up on all kinds of drugs and alcohol.
Okay. Well,
That's an excellent point, Matt. Guys, I have to head out in a second, but I just want to say that's an excellent point. I mean, how many artists are showing up on Epstein's flight logs now, and just that whole Will Smith, Jada Smith thing, that's just them distracting from the fact that Will Smith's name is on Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs. But yeah, they definitely use these music things as fronts for human trafficking. But great show as always, guys. I'm gonna head out. God bless. Peace. Much love. Keep searching for truth.
all right.
Hey, take care.
Yeah, thanks, Cliff. Yeah, great point. I mean, there's no doubt that these concerts, and also it's not just the concerts because they're in the same category as sporting events, and we all know that every year during the Super Bowl, that is the number one a place in the world, wherever the Super Bowl is. New Orleans, Miami, um, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Uh, I mean, I guess they some
Arizona.
Arizona. Yeah, they have it in Arizona a lot.
They've had it at that stadium. They've had it at that stadium a number of times in the last 15 years. It's been there 3 or 4 times.
Right. So we know that wherever the Super Bowl is, that's the number one spot for human trafficking. That's the number one spot for child sexual abuse, trafficking, etc. And that's it's just the way it is. It's the same way with concerts. It's the same way with these festivals. It's the same way with all of these taxpayer funded events, and they certainly are taxpayer funded. You're not getting away without paying for this despicable activity. It's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. So let's get into this Wayfair conspiracy. Matt, are you familiar with this one?
Um, yeah, I've heard of Wayfair. It's like an app where you can buy and sell like clothes and furniture, right?
Yeah, I think you can buy just about anything on it. I've never used Wayfair. I don't shop online, and I mean, I don't really shop offline either. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, I saw you post that picture. I think it was you with the or the CFO or whatever with Maxwell, and I've seen some people posting about it on Instagram. I haven't really looked into it too deeply. I don't know what research you've done or what you think is with that, but yeah, I haven't really researched it a lot.
well, I haven't really researched it that much, but I'm just thinking that how everyone would think that we were absolutely nuts and crazy for talking about the extent of the yeah, hey, I know. Hey Richard, I know the volume is not great. That's why we're broadcasting on Blog Talk Radio. So if somebody can,
It's much louder on here.
yeah, if somebody can put a link to Blog Talk so you can watch the show and listen to it on Blog Talk. There might be a little bit of a delay, um, or you can just listen to it on Blog Talk. But yeah, I'm aware. It's we're doing the best we can. Um, I wish we had a better way to broadcast, and I'm I'll take this time to um, I guess put it out to the public um, that hey, we're looking for individuals who can assist us with our hey, thanks Matthew Collins, um uh
Yeah.
who can help out with our operation, because we're we do have, it's more than just myself who is, works on this, but we don't have any professionals as far as folks who know how to do uh a I don't know what the word I'm looking for, like technological professional uh job as far as the broadcasts go. Like as far as my experience with broadcasting, it's mostly I present content. I don't know how to do anything with the computer or equipment. Here, you see what I'm using. It's just a phone, and I mean, there's lots of videos of the old broadcasts where I'm using uh, uh an iPad from 2011 and a phone from 2008. So yeah, we definitely need some more assistance. And the point is for us that we are separating ourselves from society. We don't wish to have anything to do with society anymore. I don't get upset or as upset about what goes on with society because um, I've done all I can. I say I reject it. I have created a religious organization, a church, and we reject everything to do with society, and we have made a covenant with God that that is the case. So at this point, it's like it's all one can do is say, "Yeah, I don't agree with anything that's going on," and that's it. We can't be held responsible for that which we oppose with all of our energy. Um, so uh, we wish to have others join us in that. So anyway, I appreciate Richard for watching and giving us the opportunity to remind everyone of that. Just listen on Blog Talk if it's not coming through clearly. So we see, thanks to Richard. Hey, I see Carlos Miller is watching or was watching. Photography is not a crime. Check that out. He has covered a couple of my abductions, um, the videos of my abductions um, by Department of Homeland Security, the Richmond City Police, etc. And greetings to Chris Lane um, and Craig DeBose and Dwayne Rankin, John Elkin. Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. I'm happy to have you. Happy to have everyone on. Lonnie Beal, Dean Asquith, Shane Miller. Yeah, I like your. Um, Shane Miller says something like 060606 is the patent for the mandatory ID coming up. Uh, yeah, that's interesting. I like your profile picture, Shane Miller, battle flag, nice Confederate battle flag. Greetings, Keith Cox. So if I missed you, I'm sorry. David Edgerly, Jeffrey Wilson. Thanks everyone. Angela Rodriguez, JD Davis, Steve Hicks. Greetings, Steve Hicks. Mark Latchison, Carl Hassel, yeah, greetings. Happy to have all y'all on. Kristen Mora. Yeah. So yeah, we got this stuff, and folks used to say we were so whacked out and crazy because we used to talk a lot about how all the millionaires and billionaires and celebrities were all tied into these child rape networks. And folks got real uncomfortable with that. They got real upset, real uncomfortable. They thought we were weird because we were saying this stuff 10 years ago. And this is like everything else that I see that everyone says, Chris, you're crazy. You literally are crazy for saying these things. It's disturbing. No one wants to see these things. No one wants to hear about them. These things. I don't believe it, etc., etc. Here's one. Here's a specific example.
Information.
Go ahead, Matt. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, some people that say that could just be, they think that, oh, ignorance is bliss and that could happen. And then you have other people that take your information and then put it out themselves and act like they're a pioneer of this stuff. Like, there's folks that are now talking about, all the Russian oligarchs connected to Trump and Chabad and all this other other stuff that you've been talking about for like 5, 6 years. So like, yeah, they either obfuscate or just steal your information, and then they make money off of it. They have great equipment. They don't have any problems going live every night or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's true. It's true. And once I'm done with it, like all this stuff, I mean, folks come to me and they act very upset about all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it is upsetting. I'm upset. I was upset 10 years ago. Now I'm on to something else that, and this stuff. Okay, here's from this from Washington Post. I don't know what the date is, but and they misrepresent what I am, but or they don't categorize me correctly in this article. And we'll segue into this because I do want to talk about the Redskins. I really do wish to talk about the Redskins. So we're loading up this Washington Post article from 2012, and I am featured in this article. And I mean, I publicly spoke about the ripoff and the criminal activity going on around the Washington Redskins dozens of times publicly during public meetings, etc. And you know, I mean, now it's coming to a head. I don't know if anyone. Okay, here we go. Richmond citizen opposing Redskins move says football has murderers, rapists, and child molesters. Okay, that's the headline in the Washington Post, November 14th, 2012. Okay, so let me read the headline again. And this was a mocking headline from 2012. In other words, in other words, the Washington Post were mocking myself and others back in 2012 with this headline. They we it was said. I mean, they have my exact quote and another individual's exact quote. The other individual is some guy who gets paid by city council to just go up there and say whatever they tell him to say. That's not me, but I am the, let's see, Richmond citizen opposing Redskins move says football has murderers, rapists, and child molesters. So let's see if we can get the headlines about the Redskins from today. Let's see. That's from 2012. And we're just going to do another thing. So that's 8 years ago. All right. Daniel Snyder, NFL, respond to sexual harassment claims against Washington Redskins. That's New York Times. Let's see what Washington Post is saying. Da, 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 da. Dan Snyder, respond to Washington sexual harassment. Statement about accusations. Dan Snyder. Redskins front office. Dan Snyder to review, consider, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, basically, there was some crazy stuff going on here in Richmond. Yeah, yeah. Good one, JD Davis. JD Davis says HTTR. Hail to the Redskins. Funny. So, what we know is that they were involved in human trafficking here in Richmond. And that 8 years ago, there was this article in the Washington Post Richmond citizen opposing Redskins move says football has murderers, rapists, and child molesters. Let's see. Here's the article. The city of Richmond held a council meeting Monday night to discuss Redskins training camp being held in the city. The proposed deal, which concerns state property, will allow Bon Secours, a nonprofit organization with ties to the Catholic Church. It's not ties to the Catholic Church. It is a Catholic Church organization to build a $6.4 million sports medicine facility over the next 10 years that the Redskins would use during the summer. Okay, so they're not using that anymore. It's a lot more than $6.4 million. That was 2012. They last year that they used it was 2019. They shall not use it again. Like I said, it cost a lot more than $6.4 million, and it didn't last 10 years. And there is no such thing as the Redskins anymore. Okay. Let's see. The citizens of Richmond were given an opportunity to voice their opinion. Among the concerns were environmental impact. Yes, of course. They cut down trees that were hundreds of years old. They destroyed the local environment. Everything was bad about that. Nothing worked good, and everybody could see that nothing was going to work good. The reduction in park space, they've shut down all the parks pretty much here in Richmond anyways now, as they have everywhere, but they did it long before that in Richmond. And the lack of time citizens were given to look at the plan. And then there were those who had concerns of a much bigger nature. To this giveaway of land to two of the most wealthy entities on the planet began resident and naysayer Chris Dorsey. The city of Richmond is a city where many people live in poverty, and our tax dollars are being given away to the Catholic Church and the Washington Redskins. And I can say I have much experience with these two entities. I am a former Redskins season ticket holder who wants my money back. And I know that going to the Redskins games is one of the biggest shakedowns anyone will ever experience. And they just shook down the taxpayers of the city of Richmond. And assisting them is their co-conspirator, the Catholic Church, who will not pay taxes. And I don't know who thought it was a good idea. I do know. I shouldn't have said that, but that's what I said. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to lease out that prime real estate for $5,000 a year. They're leasing that real estate out. Acres and acres and acres of prime real estate in the city of Richmond. Multi-million-dollar properties. Not anything built on it, just the property itself, worth multi-millions of dollars. You can't even rent a house in that neighborhood for $5,000 a year. You can't even rent a house in any of these neighborhoods for less than $12,000 a year. And that's what the Redskins were paying. That's what the Redskins were paying. And they weren't even paying that. They weren't even paying that. So again, when folks get outraged about this stuff, it's already done. And I can tell you what they did. What they did was they had a 50-year plan. We were meeting on this stuff, this Redskins training camp, the Bon Secours hospital system plan to take over property and make millions and millions and millions of dollars off of that property and pay $0 in overhead. $0 in overhead. That this was part of a 50-year plan and they were getting a 50-year lease. So the Washington Redskins, which is how they used the Washington Redskins as a Trojan horse to get the enough of the public to swallow this poison pill. It was an excuse for the media to misdirect from what was really going on. There is no such thing as the Washington Redskins anymore. There was a historical building, multiple historical buildings that were demolished in order for Bon Secours Hospital to build um, hospital slash nursing school slash sports medicine slash whatever else they're building on this city owned property. And in addition to the city owned property, to the state owned property, and everything that they said was going to stay, including the Washington Redskins, is now gone. And what remains is the cash cow for Bon Secours Hospital and all of that money that had already been given away to the multi-billion-dollar NFL slash Washington Redskins slash Washington football team now, and the multi-billion-dollar or multi-trillion-dollar actually Catholic Church. I don't know. It's really kind of inside baseball.
Say something.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Please do, Matt.
I mean, like we were talking about earlier, everything is just like getting worse and worse and worse. And I remember like when I was younger, the NFL didn't seem like as degenerate as it is now. And but definitely like all the sports are now, completely just beyond the pale of any reasonable person without giving money to these things. But the NFL is definitely the worst, I think, out of all of them.
Yeah, I mean the NBA's pretty bad. All of it. I mean, I've got this soccer on now. I mean, it's what's going on. No fans, no fans. They're all kneeling before the game. There's this political propaganda everywhere. Yeah, Richard Hobbs. All right. Yeah, yeah. They're talking about the new team name. Everybody's making the a joke that it's the Washington Foreskins. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. And it's really pointless. The games are boring without the fans. And what's the point besides gambling? There is no point. It's all based on gambling. These sports wouldn't be on television. They wouldn't be promoted. They wouldn't have leagues. They wouldn't have professional sports without gambling. Let me just tell you that right now. That is the main point. They would not have professional sports leagues without gambling. And it's driving this kind of, you know, manic idea. We cover this a lot. We cover how sports is a subversion of the natural tribal inclination for man. Um, God made man warlike and tribalistic. And so, in order to manage that, the synagogue of Satan, the Ashkenazi bloodline, has to manipulate their only threat. And we say this every week. We say it every week. You really got two choices. It's really as simple as this. Okay, if you think the country is going to get better, if if okay, all right. Hey, Bill Wright, why don't you call in? why don't you call in to the show and we can debate this, because certainly God made man warlike. I'm a man. Everyone else is a man. There's never been any period of time in recorded history, except for no time, where war has not been the case.
History is the history of war and violence.
Yeah. So the call-in number is 646-668-2151. So I mean, the history of the Bible is a history of also warfare. So okay, his original design for man was not war amongst each other. This came out of the fall of man in the Garden of Eden, and perhaps forbidden knowledge passed to man from fallen angels, i.e., Azazel. You mentioned the book of Enoch last week. I would like to hear your thoughts. Why don't you call in, dude? I mean, because what makes you an expert? Do you think you're more of an expert than I am? Do you think God did not make man warlike? Where is the time recorded in history other than when there was just just the Garden of Eden? And so if man became warlike and God made man, which I know are the facts, then God made man warlike, because everything has to do with what God made. God made everything. Man is warlike, so therefore God made man warlike. Now, all this stuff about the Garden of, I wasn't there. A man called Chris Dorsey was not there. I know enough about history and enough about what went on in the world before I entered it to know that man has always been warlike. So, if man has always been warlike, then God made him that way, male and female. Man meaning male and female. Please call in. Again, the number is, and I don't mean to be a jerk or anything like that. I'm just trying. I don't like the confusion. I don't like the confusion, because if man is warlike and man is warlike, I mean, man always engages in war. Always. No, no, no. It's not a disagreement. It's not a disagreement. Okay, because Bill Wright says this. Okay. Bill Wright responds with this: I accept we disagree on this. I do not wish to debate you. I am not an expert. I am not founding a church. Are we brothers in Christ? I mean, we're all a creation of God. Do you believe Jesus Christ is what he says he is? Of course I believe Jesus Christ is what he says he is. Now, what you're doing is you're putting out there, which part? Which part are you saying? You know, quote, if you're an expert, you one has to, if you're not an expert. I'm asking about this because I don't know what you're talking about. God made man. God made everything. The, that's how I define God, the creator of all things. Okay? So the creator of all things made everything. I didn't make the rivers. I didn't make the oceans. I'm not imagining them into existence. I didn't make the birds in the air. Okay, okay, Bill. Bill, did I say, Bill? And then he says, This is Bill Wright's response to what I'm saying. I disagree that God's original design for man is to be warlike. Matt, did I say God's original design for man is to be warlike?
No, because that wouldn't be, wouldn't be accurate. Ideally, we would live in peace, but the way the
Uh,
world works, that's not possible.
Again,
So that's
I'm
basically
attempting to
saying,
simplify things. I'm attempting to simplify things. So when I say God made man warlike, is man warlike? Do you believe, Matt? And
yeah,
everyone listening at home, i.e., there has not been a time in recorded history. There's not been a time in recorded history where man has not been engaged in war. Okay. So anything that happens, God made happen. If God made everything, God, the creator of all things,
yeah.
the,
So
the
since we are warlike, God made everything, therefore He made us warlike. That doesn't mean that when God made Adam, He made Adam a savage, brutal killer or something like that.
no, it doesn't mean anybody's a
Yeah,
savage, brutal killer. It means, even though some are, I'm just saying that man is warlike. The history of man is the
yeah. Well, that's
history
what
of
I'm saying.
war, and vice versa. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'm just saying, like, we are warlike, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that we're all aggressive all the time or we're all violent.
Or that
Because
all
then
war
people,
is bad. I think that that's a key point, and I was mistaken in that. During some the early period of my political I guess activism, I was part of an anti-war movement. I believed war was bad and that all war should end. And I I I am not embarrassed by that, except for the fact that I can just admit I was completely wrong. That it's just an absurd idea. That's like saying, let's work to make it so that man does not need water to survive. Man will always be warlike, and it's the ultimate, trick of the Ashkenazi to get everybody to be like, okay, yeah, we don't want to think about war. We don't wish to protect ourselves, so we'll disarm ourselves. We shall fight to end all war, and it will begin with ourselves. So we will raise that white flag so that the enemy can defeat us without having to fight. That's the great form of warfare. That's the most important kind of warfare, because that's psychological warfare. That's by far the most important kind of warfare. And when I talk about the weapons of war and everything being inconsequential without the weapons of war, I'm including the biggest weapon of war is the issuance and valuation of currency, control over the broadcast systems of the world. So yes, if Satan, if the fallen angels are the adversary of God, and in the book of Revelations, there's certainly war between the adversary of God and his allies. I don't know where else we have to take it, and it's so specified in that it is the synagogue of Satan that the masses are up against when it comes to warfare and that nothing else matters. And what really annoys me, and I'm fine with it because we got to suss out. And Bill Wright says, then we do agree, Chris. Amen. Mark Latchison says, every struggle serves a purpose. Without an exercise of strength, there is no purpose. Joe Erickson says, man is warlike. We need to be warlike in order to survive. And it also gives us the capability to fight back and free ourselves from oppressive rulers. Yeah, I agree. Um, so my hair's all screwed up, but anyway, it's at least it's I still have hair on my head, even though it's becoming less and less. Um, yeah, the adversary of man and God. God has created it. Man is created in God's image. So I like to keep things simple because everybody gets caught up in the subtext and the sub story, but really everything is very simple when it all boils down to um, what's going on in the world. So I'm telling you, my belief. My belief is you idiots out there who think, oh yeah, we need more, minority women in positions of authority. Like the government, the official government, they're the enemy. They are the enemy. We call for their lawful execution for treason. We've been doing so for years. Um, and so that's that. All elections are rigged. If you vote in an election, you suck. We also recognize that this country was intended and is intended, not that it's exclusive for, not that we wish to destroy anyone who is not that, because again, we have a lot of the individuals who have been with the people of God from the beginning um, agree to this. So we're not excluding anyone, but this is a European country, for lack of a better word. And as soon as this is not, or if it ever is not a European country, it's the downfall of all humanity. There's no purpose. You're the only hope for the world to not be a hellscape run by the seed of Satan is for the founding stock of America to be in control of all things. That will be the only way that's what the book of Revelations is about. That's what that's what the purpose on earth is. The people of God being in authority on God's uh, creation, planet Earth. So it's as simple as that. You got two choices. You either have the people of God or the synagogue of Satan. That's it. And you shall see when one looks into reality that the so-called Jews, those who say they are Jews but are not, have disproportionate control over the levers of power. And the only way to solve that problem is to it's warfare. Is for the founding stock of America to control the levers of power of the world. That's it. Um,
Yeah, and Chris, like you always say, what we have now is synagogue of Satan. So just for all the folks out there, how are things going right now
yeah,
in the world?
that's right.
You know, why
Yeah,
are these people in charge?
that's right. Keep it simple. How are things going? Were things better 2 years ago? Were things better 10 years ago? Certainly, things were better 20 years ago. Uh, were things better 30 years ago? Were they better 50 years ago? And I'm talking about for everyone 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Certainly better. Certainly better. Certainly better. And I'm saying things were better for slaves in the United States of America and in the colonies now than they are for the average person now. That's what I'm saying. So there you go. I mean, can I not get calls on that? Call line 646-668-2151. Does anyone in the comment section disagree? I mean, good lord, it's like everything. I watch stuff on TV from a couple years ago and I'm like, wow, yeah, it wasn't too bad back then. It was horrible back then, 2 years ago. Yeah, I think, yeah, yeah, go for it.
That's right. One of the worst things is the the lengths that they've gone through to erase certain information off the internet. I mean, obviously, all these big platforms are controlled by them, but like even on YouTube, like a couple years ago, I didn't have any problem finding stuff, and now when I look something up, I just get garbage video after garbage video from mainstream sources. You can't find anything of substance anymore on these platforms.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've had thousands of videos removed, gone for good off of Facebook. And even though there is archiving and stuff like that, it's you can't keep up with the archiving. I mean, at this point, it's thousands and thousands of videos. The Washington Post article I just read about my opposition to the Washington Redskins and their partnership with the Catholic Church. That was put up on YouTube. It was out there for everyone to see, not just folks reading the Washington Post. Yeah, it is really disgusting how everything has disappeared, and yeah, folks can't find stuff anymore. I mean, that's a daily thing for me. You can't find stuff that was there on the internet, documented and in plain English. JD Davis, Mark, he has explained this over and over again. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, it's true. Yeah, it's the Khazars. I mean, at least 12% of the DNA of modern so-called Jews is Khazarian. We went through with the Q haplogroup, um, you know, the connections to the Khazarians. The Q haplogroup is the smoking gun for uh for the um for the Khazarian theory. Richard says, you
Hey,
think,
Chris,
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
just like on the Kazarian thing, I have a question. Maybe you could shed some light on.
Hmm.
So, when was the conversion? It was like 800 AD, around that
Yeah,
time.
around 800 AD.
Oh, the conversion of the Khazars.
Yeah.
All right. So, in Revelation, when it talks about like the synagogue of Satan, are they talking? Is that a prophecy that there would be another bloodline that would claim to be the tribe of Judah,
It
or is
seems
that,
to be. I mean, that's above my pay grade,
or
but that's what it
was the
seems to
same
me to be.
bloodline around back then, and then they intermixed with the Khazars? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the Khazars were also kind of a loosely knit, ethnic group as well. Kind of wide based. It was. It was in a kind of centralized location. They were called the Pirates of the Plains, and that there are some theories that 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 it was mostly the ruling class of the Khazars that were most adherent to the quote unquote Jewish religion, which wasn't really even a thing back then. You know, the word Jew, Judean, and Judean, that is not about a religion. There is a religion that these individuals follow, but Judah is an individual, and therefore the offspring of this individual became part of a clan, which became part of a tribe. So we're just talking about, like, these words. This is how I got to understand things and comprehend them. I don't understand anything that any human tells me, but I comprehend a lot of it. But DNA is something that is a real thing. Words are made up to represent something in order to describe it. So there you go. DNA is real. So when we go like, okay, Q haplogroup, K haplogroup, J haplogroup, J1, J2, those are descriptions of real things. And that is analysis of one's blood. So what I would say to that is, yeah, it seems like a prophecy to me. That's I mean, does that answer the question? Yeah, it seems like a prophecy. Maybe this bloodline was active it at the time that the book of Revelation was written, and maybe they spread out somewhere else. It's it's a you know it's it's a fascinating question, but yeah, to me it's a prophecy. That's the way I read it. It is prophetic.
Okay.
And if it was not intended to be prophetic, it in fact is prophetic because it was written so long ago, and that's exactly what's happening now. Okay, let's get to Richard's question. Richard Hobbs says, "You think Ghislaine Maxwell is telling? Question mark. No way she can survive 1 year before trial." Richard, I will respond to that question by saying, is there any proof that she's even locked up except for these stories? Um,
And another thing, Chris,
yeah, go ahead.
so like they're saying, oh, is she gonna like give some names of people that she's been associated with? It's like it's down to open who this woman was associated with. There's
Right.
pictures all over the internet of her with, hundreds of different people that everyone knows. So like, what's good would it do if she did name names? Like, and it's not like that entire FBI was just compromised by the same group of people.
And they've known about this for such a
Now
long
it just
time.
seems
Right. I remember making a video 6 years ago talking about the then governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, who was a fixer among other things for the Clinton family, and how they were sitting next to each other. There was a picture of them sitting next to each other at Chelsea Clinton's uh, marriage. So Chelsea married a Synagogue of Satan member. She may have bloodline connections herself, but yet, like, that's a good point. What's she gonna tell? All the names are already out there. Um, I what I think is possibly, thinking. in the way that I believe one cannot be too cynical, is that this is just kind of a misdirection that everybody already knows all the names. So we're not talking about the fact that this has been known for a dozen years and now we're just hearing about this from the mainstream media. I'm surprised, and I'm not sticking up for Trump in any sort of way, but they're basically throwing Trump under the bus. And I remember 4 years ago exposing the Trump Epstein Maxwell connections and getting all of this hate mail and this blowback from the public, and now these same folks, they're putting out the fact that Trump is associated with Epstein as if they're breaking news. That was old news 4 years ago. Yeah. So anyway, okay. Matt just called back. I'll unmute him. Um is she? I don't know. Joe Erickson says she's a low level sacrifice to make it look like they're taking down the pedo rings, but it's still going on. Oh, certainly it's still going on big time. Is she low level?
That could be true.
I mean, but she's not low level. I mean, maybe low level in comparison to the Rothschilds, maybe, but she's not low levels. That's why she's so
She's
well
pretty
known.
high up.
Yeah, she's pretty high up. She's with everyone. Yeah, that's the thing. Let me look up something real quick, and I'm gonna look up Ghislaine Maxwell mugshot.
Well, Chris, I do agree with that sentiment. Maybe that like they're maybe they're going after her, or claiming that they're going after her to make it look like they actually care, or to make it look like there's some semblance of concern from the government about these things. Or maybe it could be to try to make Trump look like the good guy. That, oh, he's
But
going
it
after
wouldn't
the
make Trump
people.
look like the good guy because he's pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell dozens of times. I mean, I look up. I here. I'll show y'all. Okay, I looked up Ghislaine Maxwell mugshot. So this is what I get from Google Images. Okay, so there's
There is none, right?
no, but on the second row, what do you see here? You see Ghislaine, Donald, and Melania. So it's not making, it's not, because I what I think is like, how I would answer that question is, um, may yeah, that this is could be cover to what's going on right now, and basically they might have to blow the whole thing up because they can't cover it up anymore. You see, when I used to keep things real simple, and before I got into like the layer upon layer of the onion, is I would say, okay, we know about this stuff. So when I hear stuff breaking, or when I see a TV news story about something I've been talking about for years, I just say, oh, the government couldn't keep it quiet any longer, and this is their uh, controlled, limited hangout of this story. So if they're saying Epstein, oh, they arrested Epstein. Everybody's known about Epstein, who was an informed individual, or properly informed, at least on this subject matter. Everybody knew about Epstein for a dozen years. There were mainstream media articles about Jeffrey Epstein and underage girls going back a dozen years at least. So was it in everybody's face for that long? Were there denials? Was there plausible deniability? well, it wasn't very plausible, but there was deniability. There were denials. But did anyone who rationally looked into that think that that wasn't the case? No, it goes way back. Um, so what I think may be going on is, hey, maybe this operation was finished. It's finished. They, like you said, they already got all the names out there. So if they're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, they are not talking about what's going on right now in this operation because certainly it hasn't stopped.
Yeah, Chris,
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
could be 90 it could be seconds. Like maybe it did get a little too obvious, and these people were just being too brazen. So now they have to do this to obfuscate, and then the Mossad will just like hand the baton to the next person that's going to run
Of course,
during
certainly,
the operation now. So that could be
certainly,
it also.
certainly. Yeah, okay.
60
Uh,
seconds.
and hey, just stay on the line. We're gonna go a few minutes into the 11 o'clock hour, but it if if it cuts off after 11, you can't call back into the show. So, Mark Latchison says, these Khazars are the new Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. And then he says she'll get low level diplomatic immunity. Where's her mugshot? Where's the proof she's in jail? Where's the proof that she's being
Hey,
investigated?
weren't Khazars the real Pirates of the Caribbean during the slave trade, though?
I think that's the case, and it seems that way. And but again, perception is the only thing that really matters, especially with the public. So it you know the public is 99% wrong, incorrect, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because what they believe is the only thing that matters to them, and what they believe is wrong. It's 99% wrong. Um, yeah, let's keep going. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Joe Erickson, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know about this thing because I can't click on it. But Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell recruited their sex slaves from among other places, Mar-a-Lago, and Trump and Epstein were having sex parties with underage prostitutes at Mar-a-Lago. And Trump and Epstein, according to court documents, were raping 12 and 13-year-old sex slaves together. The idea to say Trump didn't have anything to do with it. Epstein says he modeled uh, or he used Trump's quote unquote modeling agency as the template for Epstein's front company for prostitution, which was uh, a teenage modeling agency. So no, I don't think that's the case. Um, all right. Well, we're in the 11 o'clock hour. I'd like to close out by talking about kind of not kind of exactly what cannot be ignored about what is going on in the world, um, about the uptake in violent crimes that are occurring, especially around urban areas in the United States of America, and the murder rates going up in Richmond, city of Richmond, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York City. the uptick in violence, and I'll tell you why that is. That is because they can't control things anymore. The the uh, um, the population is out of control. That's why they had to close down the schools. That's why they had to shut down all public events because the quote unquote human beings that are inhabiting the United States of America are worse than out of control animals now, and they are massively murdering one another at an increased rate. Additionally, additionally, they had to shut down the economy because they knew that no one could pay their rent or mortgage anymore. No one could pay for their living expenses and their bills anymore, and now they had to stop it to work everything out. Let's close out by discussing that, Matt. I think I've made my best effort to make that clear. Um, you know, I mean that's basically what we've been saying for the past
Yeah.
10 years. That that life is unsustainable. That that it's so out of control. The conditions for the average person are are so um, horrific that it is like a nonstop war zone. And I'm telling you, it has to do with race and ethnicity. It really does, and nothing will change until this happens. I remember an interview I did on Press TV where Press TV was attempting to get me to say that this was 5 and 6 years ago that the police were targeting uh, black people with violence and death. And I told them simply, more white people are killed by the police than black people. The percentages may be similar, but there's more white people in the United States of America than there are black people. And there are a lot more white people that are murdered by the treasonous waste of oxygen police than black people. The response to that was they didn't like it, but hey, it was said on international television. And I can tell you, um, the murder rates, the crime rates, they are almost double, maybe even more than double, uh, uh, among minorities than they are among white people. That's it's just a fact, and the same goes with all of uh, uh, all of these all of these agencies, population centers, with the financial system, etc. And this was by design, and it is by design because 20 years ago, 50 years ago, I should say, white people made up 85% of the population. Today, it is 60% of the population. And you see things deteriorating from there. Um, you know, that's it. I don't know if you wish to discuss that or just we just close it off with that with saying you got a choice. You either have the people of God in charge, the Western European, the descendants of the biblical kings and queens, the descendants of the legitimate kings and queens of Europe, or you have the synagogue of Satan in charge. And I mean that's it. Those are the choices, and the synagogue of Satan is using all the other minority groups to scapegoat who everyone is jealous of, and that is the founding stock of America, and they are making certain elements of the founding stock of America engage in unbelievable self hatred and doing that publicly and rewarding that. But you see that's it. That's it. Um, uh, you know, no government official has any standing over me. No judge, no lawyer, no cop, no president, no human being on earth has any standing over me because I reject every bit of officialdom that is out there. It is of the devil. And when I say that, I don't mean like what's on the side of your, can of deviled ham, or you know, in your Tenacious D video. I mean the adversary of God against God's natural order, and that's it. Uh, yeah, I mean that's it. And I mean, God willing, we will destroy them in a war. And I'm wondering, is this depopulation agenda? Is this white genocide agenda? Is this taking into account warfare? Is this taking into account JD Davis? I'm not sure what you mean there. Not uh, Joe Erickson says 1965 Immigration Act was the beginning of the end for USA. Let's look into that. 1965.
Yeah, Chris, that was done by a guy named Jacob Javits from New York.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
Senator from New
it
York, Jacob
basically
Javits.
just like opened the floodgates, you know.
Right. I I mean, to me, it's just obvious. It is just obvious to me that things are getting worse. I can tell you that if you go to a town and it is run by non-whites, it's going to be a crap town. Eh, the towns run by white people at this point are crap towns, but it's not nearly as bad. I'll give you some examples. Richmond, city of Richmond, um, Washington D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Chicago, Illinois, any urban center. I mean, again, like, okay, that may be the case. Yeah, most of the individuals I know have actually all the individuals I know who have died of drug overdoses are white. But again, what's that doing? That's just hurting themselves, and that's that's it. Yeah, they've turned a lot of white people into drug addicts. Yeah, all by design. You're absolutely Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, Los Angeles, California. Um, San Francisco, California. Um,
Minneapolis.
yeah, Minneapolis, Indianapolis. I mean, basically every urban center is run by non-whites, and they're all crap. And that being said, there are. I really do think it's what Mark Latchison, because it's the fact. It's a fact. I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, some of the, I would say many of the a few of the smartest people I know, smarter than almost all the white people I know. There are black people I know that are smarter, more moral, and better human beings in my mind than almost all the white people I know. I'll say that. As far as how this government and country is supposed to function, yeah, if there's hardly any white people in a place or there's a minority of white people, it's going to be crappy. I'm just telling you. No, that's you see, don't put words in my mouth. I'm saying very specific things. So, no, why would you say that, Chris, is what Mark Latchison says. Are we the pestilence of society? No, that's not the case. That's not what I believe. I just said what I believe, and I've been saying this for a long time. I'm just stating what facts are. I'm just stating what facts are. And I'm stating, again, that this is a country for designed to be run by quote unquote white people, and that to run the world, to be in charge, to be the boss of bosses. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to vouch for any individual except for yours truly, and I know what I am. I know what I am genealogically and genetically, and I certainly wouldn't trust anyone who doesn't completely agree with me 100% of the time with anything. So that's all I'll say about that. Certainly not the pestilence of society. Uh, that being said, this country is not working by design. I believe that, and a lot of folks I know, black individuals, quote unquote, so called black people included. And that being said, listen to this, as we always say, and I've never hidden this 25 to 35% of African American DNA is European. So, that being said, that's where uh, uh, this is why we're asking for reparations, that we've eaten the minority of people with institutional racism. Reparations are a freaking joke. That anybody pushing for reparations is the enemy, enemy of God. And the idea of reparations is an absolute freaking joke. I can't even get proper compensation for what I've videotaped, the crimes committed against me, the attempts to kill me, and they folks are asking for reparations. What a freaking joke! Give me a break. All right, well, we're about 15 minutes into the 11 o'clock hour, so I think it's time, to end the program. Thanks to Matt for calling in from New York. Thanks to Clifford for calling in from Mexico. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Let's see.
Hey, peace out, Chris.
Yeah, peace out. Yeah. I'm gonna get Mark Latchison's last comment. Uh, let's see. I do understand you speaking up for your people. I have no problem with that. That's what you're supposed to do. But people will take what you say the wrong way. I mean, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm being very precise in my words. No individual has any authority over me. I have authority over all other individuals. And if anybody has a problem with that and they confront me on that, then we will have a public problem. Otherwise, I don't care what anybody else thinks. So it is a fact. This is a country designed for a specific kind of Western European man, male and female. That's what it was designed for. We are the people of God. We are the descendants of the Israelite people. If you have another, if one has another religion besides the religion of the Bible, and you wish to believe another way, that's fine. Otherwise, uh, individuals who have my bloodline and my genealogy must be in charge. That's it. Um, and God bless, Mark. You know, God bless, and more likely than not, you have that same blood in your veins. So, because, like I would say, the average quote unquote uh, African American or Black American average has between 25 and 35% European DNA, and that would probably mostly be um, English, Irish, Scottish, etc. All right. So, yeah, we're going to end it there. This is Chris Dorsey signing off. This is our true religious belief. This is verified fact. Anyone who disagrees is the enemy of God. Anyone who attempts to take any sort of negative sanctions towards us is our sworn enemy, and we wish to neutralize you in every way possible within the law. Peace and God bless.
Amen.
All right.